Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to episode 52 of the Alchemy Devlog. It's your pal Isaac here with the latest news from the team. In this episode, we're going to talk about trackers, some sheet builder updates, City of Mist, and more. We'll also take a few moments to talk about what we're working on next and to answer some of the questions that have come in through the Devlog Q&A form. If you have a question of your own that you'd like me to answer in the future, go ahead and click that link down in the description and send it my way. Let's dive in. Before we get started, I wanted to remind you all that we launched a really cool new shop on shop.alchemyrpg.com. That is a web address that you can type into your favorite web browser application to load the Alchemy shop and take a look at all of the cool wares that we have for sale, including things like Lore of Ethera. If you don't know what Lore of Ethera is, it's an original 5e science fantasy series that we have been working on for a number of years. And we have 2 books in that now, Lost Druid and Dark Symmetry. You can pick those up from our shop. We even have some of the coveted limited edition hardcovers from that Kickstarter available while supplies last. You can buy records from us. We have actual physical, real vinyl records with music, really good music on them, pressed into the grooves, and that'll last like forever. Very cool. We have Alchemy V1 rewards still available. There's a few leftover overstock from the Alchemy V1 Kickstarter. You can get a backer box set. You can get a content deck of collectible cards that redeems a bunch of cool stuff on Alchemy. So check those out for sure while supplies last. And you can get Alchemy merch. We have things like shirts, hoodies, playmats, and gift cards for the Alchemy Marketplace, where you can buy all of your favorite products on Alchemy. So have a look, shop.alchemyrpg.com, and pick something up today. All right, what is new? First of all, we have been working on trackers a bit lately. Let's jump into this Call of Cthulhu game because Call of Cthulhu is the new hotness on Alchemy. As far as trackers go, there are a couple of new options. First up, for game masters, you can make game trackers that are limited to scenes. I guess in this case I'm a keeper because this is a Call of Cthulhu game. But in any case, when you go to create a game tracker, you can make this available only on specific scenes through this drop down here. So when I create this by default, it's going to be created in the game trackers and it'll be available on every scene. We've got our new tracker here. If I go to the ancient world and we take a look at our tools again, we have new tracker as well. But if I want that to be available only on the ancient world scene, for example, I could select that. And maybe we want it on the basement as well. We can limit that tracker to just those scenes by selecting them here and then saving the changes to that tracker. And you can see it just disappeared from my Call of Cthulhu scene, but if I switch back over to the ancient world and go to my tools, I've got that tracker available here. This was primarily built with a specific use case in mind for a different game system, but this is kind of generally useful if you can imagine using trackers for things that could be only in one scene, like a trap. Having those limited to a specific scene can be helpful, especially in games where you have a lot of scenes. And so if we go to the basement, we'll also see that new tracker here as well. But if we go back to the Call of Cthulhu scene, it is now gone. And that also takes effect if you were to share this tracker with a player and they were able to see it in their trackers panel. It would disappear for them when they're on a different scene as well. So nice way to put trackers in a little bit of a more controlled box in your games. Next up for trackers, I'm going to jump over to the player side of this game on Keiko here and take a look at the trackers. On the character sheet, we'll go over to the mechanics tab. And I'm going to add a new tracker. We're going to open that up and call it Secrets. And we'll just save that bar tracker. And like any good tracker, it gets added to my trackers panel. However, if I wanted this tracker to be hidden from the panel, but for some reason still available on my character sheet, there is a new switch at the bottom of the tracker section here to hide the tracker, which keeps the tracker on your character sheet, but removes it from the tracker's panel. Useful for times when you have something that changes very infrequently, but you still want to track it on your character sheet. And also for us, for plumbing up certain types of data flow for things that we don't necessarily want in the trackers panel and want to expose somewhere else. Hopefully that'll be a feature coming to Sheet Builder and System Builder soon. But for now, you can use that field to declutter your trackers panel. All right, speaking of Sheet Builder, we have a whole bunch of new features for Sheet Builder that I'm going to show off now. So for that, let's jump into Content Universes, and let's go ahead and create a new one, Devlog 52. We're going to make this a custom system, although these would really be available in any system. And jump into the system settings and create a new player character sheet. Okay, so first up, and possibly most exciting to me, is the group block. This is a new block type for character sheets that you actually sort of just saw this component in the trackers panel of a character sheet. But it is a cool new component that you can put on a sheet to group up different blocks together. So this is an expandable and collapsible little section that we can give a name. And you can choose whether or not it's opened or closed by default. And you can choose whether or not its name should be editable when expanded. So we'll leave it as is for now and take a look. Once you expand it, you have this little area where you can drop different things. We'll go ahead and drop a text input into there. And maybe we'll throw a drop down. So our group, if we leave edit mode, when it's collapsed, it's nice, tidy, hello there, but when you expand it, you get this text input that you can work with and your drop down field. And you can have that just be tucked away to reduce the complexity of your sheet at first glance and sort of progressively disclose that information to the player. Definitely a nice one for Sheet Builder in general, and one that we're going to be using pretty heavily on an upcoming sheet for City of Mist. We also have a new set of options for the 2-column block. If you put a 2-column split here and want to change the way that it splits up the 2 columns, this used to just have like 3 or 4 different options, but now it has like a bunch. So you can choose to make that split land in a bunch of different spots based on what your character sheet layout needs. Quite handy. Similar to the 2-column block, we released an all-new 5-column block that gives you 5 little places to drop things into. We'll just put some text into each one of those. And they get spread out across those 5 cells, however you want that to happen. We also have some cool new options for pips. So I'll take a pip and drop it down here below those. By default, a pip just looks like that and it's right aligned. But now you can change the pip shape and the pip color. So circle by default, you can change that to a square, which of course looks like a square, or a diamond, which of course looks like a square that's been rotated because it is. You can also change the color to any of the colors from your theme. In this case, these are our default theme colors of blue, green, orange, purple, red. Theme accent, which is kind of a gold in this case, and yellow. So we'll make that pip blue, and it fills with a nice blue color when you click the diamond. Those are probably the biggest new sheet builder features of late, but there have been a whole bunch of other smaller changes and improvements to sheet builder. It's definitely coming along, but we have a long ways to go before this is ready for kind of general use. But we are continuing to make it awesome. And stay tuned for more info on when this will be more generally available. Okay, we've also been hard at work on City of Mist, which is kind of the next game title that we plan to release. By the way, if you've been wondering when it's going to release, we have an official release date for it now. It is February 18th of 2025. Of course, that's just less than a couple weeks away. We'll have City of Mist live on the platform for all of you to enjoy. We've been hard at work on new features for that, so let's jump into this game as a player and take a look at some of the cool new things. So, first of all, we have an all-new tracker type for City of Mist specifically because it has a special tracking card that you use in the game to track different tags, statuses, clues, and juice. So when we go to add a tracker to our character, we'll go to the Mechanics tab, add a tracker. It defaults to a tracking card. You can choose the color, and when we see that new tracker pop in here, we can click on it to get an all-new quick adjustment UI for City of Mist specifically. So you can create a status is the default. You can choose the severity of that status from 1 through 6, including each of the little pips in between each category of a status. You can make it a tag instead, juice, or a clue, which gives you a little bit more room to write. We'll take a look at a status. We'll call it something like new status. And we'll leave it at the default value of 1. And that shows up in here as new status 1. It shows you the value right there. And as you change that to different levels, this will update to show you the new value as well. When you're in between, it stays at the 1 below. So that's a 2 still. So that's kind of an all-new general purpose tracking card for City of Mist, very commonly used in this game to track all sorts of different things. And when you go to make a move now, we have a fancy new dialogue that gives you the option to choose a bunch of different facets of the game to modify your move. So it starts out on the Rift tab. You can choose from your theme tags for your character. So in this case, we could maybe be, we're going toe to toe. We're facing danger rather. And we're going to face danger with our makeshift katana. And that's a positive or beneficial tag, which gives us +1 to our roll. But maybe we're also being daring. So we get a +2. But from the scene, we're in a burning building. And so we want to apply that scene tag as a detrimental tag to our roll. And then you can add an arbitrary bonus if you want to for any reason, in case there's something that's not represented by your tags and statuses. And then lastly, you can invoke the move to combine all of those into your 2d6 roll. And in our case, it was a +1 bonus. So we got a 6. And inside of this modal, it breaks down exactly what you used, what tags you used for that roll. So we have our makeshift katana, which was a +1. We had our daring, which was a +1. And then we had the burning building, which was a -1 to our roll, giving us a total bonus of +1 on that roll. And by the way that things like the burning building show up is through a game tracker that's linked to a specific scene. So the GM of this game, or the master of ceremonies, I should say, created this burning building tag and assigned it to this scene specifically, and that brings it in to the scene trackers when I invoke a move. Go toe to toe, scene tracker, burning building, very cool stuff. So in terms of City of Mist, those are the two big new things that we've launched recently, and we have just a little bit more to do on this system. We're working on a redesign of the character sheets to make it easier to create new themes. So this is our old sheet. We have a new sheet that is nearly finished that makes it easier to just kind of dynamically add new themes to your sheet. for both your Mythos and your Logos. And that should be coming out to the City of Mist beta testers here very soon. And like I said at the start of the segment, we are aiming to release City of Mist on the 18th of this month, so it's coming out very soon. Pretty exciting. All right, let's talk about what's coming up next. So as I just mentioned, City of Mist is definitely next up for us. I know there's a few things to polish up there, a few things to fix, a few things to add, and then we'll be launching that on the 18th. Beyond that, we possibly have some new marketplace content coming out for Vampire the Masquerade, and we're working on a couple of new systems that might be out soon. We're definitely looking for beta testers for one of them soon. If you haven't already joined our Discord, I encourage you to hop in there now. We'll have a link down below. And we have a new forum for recruiting beta testers for different systems, and that's kind of where we're organizing all of that stuff. So hop on in there. Beyond that, I'm definitely working on bug fixes and performance improvements. Personally, that's kind of what I'm focused on for the next little bit here. Huge focus for me. And I've got some ideas for ways that we can improve kind of global performance and resource utilization. Just kind of have to chip away at a long list of things there and see what has the most impact. But we're definitely working on those things actively right now, all the time, when we're not recording devlog episodes. So we're jamming. Other than that, we are continuing to work towards that V1 milestone. And if we take a look at the roadmap, this hasn't really changed much in a long time because we've really been left with one remaining feature on there, which is streamer mode, that stream-friendly pop-out window. I showed that many episodes ago. It hasn't been touched in a while. There's kind of some underlying video chat performance and reliability things to sort out before we really kind of dig into the final bits of streamer mode. But this is really the only big thing left for us on the V1 feature roadmap. So streamer mode and bug fixes and performance improvements, ironing out all the major bugs, things like people's characters disappearing sometimes on their first session, universe objects disappearing sometimes, performance issues, making sure things are rock solid and V1 ready. And we also have a few secret projects on our list for V1. One thing I will call out is that our content roadmap for V1, we have City of Mist in beta right now. We'll be launching that again on the 18th. And then we have a number of titles left for our V1 content slate. Those are Degenesis, Cyberpunk, Wild Sea, Stillfleet, Shift, and the big one, Pathfinder 2. I don't think we're going to get all of these game systems done before we call the software V1 and leave early access behind. I just don't see that being feasible for all of those to be out there, but we're going to continue working on them and they won't be delayed in any way by us kind of stamping our version 1 of the software before those titles are out. So we're going to keep working on those in tandem with kind of finalizing our V1 feature slate and getting everything ready from that regard. So the V1 push is actually something that I think we can see the kind of the line in the sand and see that coming up for us in the near future, certainly this year, hopefully in the first half, if we can get everything to align correctly there. And then we're going to continue chipping away on things post V1. We haven't really talked much about what post V1 looks like, but we'll continue releasing systems. We've of course got these V1 game systems that we'll be working on in tandem. Some of these will come out before we stamp V1. Some of them might be after, depending on how things shake out. And then we have a ton of content on our post V1 game support list. If you haven't seen this, this is where you can go to see the latest and greatest list of content that will be coming to Alchemy after V1. And this is a very long list. Some of these may end up shipping before V1 because of the way that our deals have worked with these folks. Like I know Ryoko's Guide is a recent example that we just got the files for, and it's a 5e thing, and we'll probably be pushing that out here in the next few weeks rather than, being strict about it being on the post V1 game support list. But for the most part, this stuff is all coming either, before we hit that V1 milestone or, for most of them after. But this is where you can go to see that stuff, and we'll be chipping away at this list of games that we'll be supporting after V1 in the post V1 world. Beyond that, we obviously have the big 2024 D&D rules revamp that we haven't addressed yet on Alchemy. We're waiting for the SRD revision for that, which is supposed to maybe be out this month. We'll be diving into that in our kind of post V1 world. And we have some exciting new features and lots of cool ideas to bring to the platform. And of course, System Builder. That's going to be a big one that we bring out in the V1 timeline, sort of to the general population. So get stoked about that. So that should give you a pretty good glimpse at what's left for us for V1, kind of where we're headed there, and a little bit of a glimpse at what we're going to be working on after we stamp V1. And with that out of the way, let's head on over to Q&A. Q&A. Translations. Is it an option for the future to include translation to other languages, for example, Spanish, or at least to have the option to manually translate the content? Robert. Definitely. There's kind of two facets to this. One is the Alchemy UI, all the things that you see, and the other is the published content. And I think that both of those are planned for after we stamp our V1 version and leave early access behind, but probably not any sooner than that. And each of those facets have sort of unique requirements and different people involved. So they'll kind of likely happen at different times. Additionally, the published content side of it, those are controlled by the publishers themselves. So we won't be offering translations of titles on our marketplace unless that's strictly provided by the publisher themselves. Sometimes they contract those translations out to another company. Other times they do that in-house, but those translations of published content will definitely come directly from publishers and be beholden to their schedules in terms of that. So two sort of angles to translation that I know, or internationalization that I know we'll be working on eventually. So look forward to that sometime in the future. Next up, more Chaosium titles. Great job with the VTM and Call of Cthulhu launches. Are there any current plans to add any Chaosium expansion books like Pulp Cthulhu or Cthulhu by Gaslight to the library? Velzaid. So first off, thank you. Glad to hear that you're enjoying those title launches. I know for a fact that we have a bunch more Chaosium content in our pipeline, but I don't know where Pulp and Gaslight land on that. And honestly, I don't really have a deep familiarity with those to know whether or not there's something we can just dive into soon. So a lot of that, I think, depends on how much those deviate from the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition rules that we have available on the platform now. I think that if they're pretty similar, you'll see them sooner than later. But when I find out for sure, I'll make sure that we get those added to our content roadmap, so that we have those on there for our for us to get excited about. The Cursed Doobly-Doo. Me and my group are beginning to heavily use tactical mode and maps. And we found out that having our character's profile picture with the two trackers right in the middle of the screen wasn't ideal. Of course, we can always use Zen mode to hide it and only see the map and our tokens, but then we don't see the journal, rolls, and handouts anymore. Is there a way to move the picture and tracker somewhere else? On the top, because the dice are already on the bottom, or to the side of the screen maybe, so it won't get in the way of maps and tokens? Thanks, Grazed. So this is definitely a common request. We've heard about this thing a lot. Someone on our Discord coined it the Doobly-Doo. Shout out to MCDM for letting us use that trademarked term in our own communications. But anyway, we've definitely heard about this a lot. And right now, our answer to this is Zen mode. We've got the keyboard shortcut that you can pop in and out of Zen mode very quickly. The journal continues to show you those sort of ephemeral journal cards that pop in when you're in Zen mode and show for 10 seconds. So you don't necessarily lose the journal other than stuff that happened more than 10 seconds ago. But beyond that, you can remove your player bar trackers on your character sheet. You can drag those from the player bar tracker section down to the trackers panel section. And that will remove those two bars from the sides of your character avatar. So you just have the little circle of your avatar and your name in the middle of the screen, reducing a little bit of that space there. So that can kind of help. I definitely think we'll come up with a way to collapse that or hide it temporarily, because it does get in the way, especially on laptop screens. And we've heard about this quite a lot. So certainly something on our radar. For now, use Zen mode, and if you can stand it, hide those player bar trackers, and we'll come up with something here eventually. All right, that's it for Q&A for this episode. Thanks everyone for your questions. Again, if you have one of your own, you can find a link to the form to submit a question down below. That's it for this episode of the Devlog. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, head on down below, smash that like button, subscribe for future updates, take a look at the other great content that we're putting out on our channel, and stay tuned for all the cool things we have in store. Thanks for watching. Let's go play some games.